So the point being that if you are racing this fall, you need to be in maintain.
Hi, this is Coach MK.
Hi, this is Coach Sarah.
And welcome to the Fitness Protection Podcast.
And welcome to the program.
Welcome to the Fitness Protection Podcast. It's Coach MK. Have you missed me? I've missed you.
Yay! And this is Coach Sarah, and I have missed you too, even though, what am I talking about? I talk to you guys every day, all the time. I know all about your lives. Helen, I know you're in New York right now. I hope you're having fun.
I mean, you're talking to me every day, all the time. And
yes, that is true.
I know about everybody, but I'm very fortunate I get to talk to you all the time.
Well, you're the only person that tells me how amazing I am as often as you do. Like, not even my husband tells me I'm amazing in the specific and like very intense way that you do all the time. So you've earned it. I'll talk to you anytime because I'm always going to get off the phone. Be like, yeah, you know what? I am amazing. I am. That's right.
Thank you. That means a lot. That when I came out of the same, I'm a decade older than you. That blows my mind sometimes. But I came out of the same you're 32, right?
I'm almost 33.
Okay, I'm almost 31. Spring chicken you is.
I know.
But I'm a product of the same overachiever culture and environment that you were. Obviously for different reasons. I wanted to make sure I had the best job possible with the widest array of health insurance benefits possible. And I wanted to be on the Gold Star plans. And that was what drove all of my decisions. Was my family was totally wrecked by a major cardiovascular event in my dad. And I haven't really been able to, get over it or look past that since. That's like critical to understanding who I am and how I operate, how people are like, wow. Because I guess like really big personalities or really forceful humans, like forcefully defending their own boundaries. I guess impulsiveness goes along with that, or not being risk takers goes along with that. And I don't see myself as a risk taker at all. I play things very safely. I'm super strategic like that. And I'm not always like sharing the chess that goes on, but every time I'm in an interaction, it's like, okay, if I say this, what will this person hear? And how likely are they to react? So it's a little game that I discuss with my therapist. And I guess this is the first time I've ever said it outside of a therapy situation. But shorthand is called, do you hear what I hear? And there are cues where if I'm in a situation and let's say there's a dude in the room and he's totally talking over all the women. And I might look, if I catch the eye of a woman across the table, we might share a knowing look with each other, but that look doesn't mean very much. Later, when we're talking about it, that's where do you hear what I hear comes in. And I find a way to bring it up and see like how they react. Like this is clearly an opening. If you heard what I heard and you're a little nervous too, that's the thing you're going to tell me. Do you hear what I hear? And in seconds, like people don't, generally speaking, there's not a whole lot of back and forth, like waiting for it to drop. It's like, I kind of allude to it. The curtain's down and now we can talk openly and freely and not really have to worry about it. Because, I said taboo things and you did too. It's not like that guy's a human garbage can. It's like, that made me really uncomfortable. Made me a little uncomfortable too. Do you think he heard anything we said? No, I don't think so. So as a result of him not listening, I'm pretty sure that this isn't going to happen. How do we manage this? Will this fall on you? So that's when the real conversation happens. It's never going to be in the presence sort of that. But like, that's just one example of all the many ways that I tend to play the things I don't say, and the chess where it usually begins with, do you hear what I hear? Okay, no one else sees the elephant in the room, or no one else is going to talk about the elephant in the room, so I'm just going to have to leave and put it on the blog. Go for a run. Deal with it somewhere.
Get over it, MK. Get over it.
Yeah, man. But that's just a long way of saying like I'm super risk averse in many, many ways. So this whole entrepreneur thing is bugging me out, but it's the first time in my life that I haven't been in a place where that mindset that is very much a trap, didn't dominate, right? Where they're like this company, and I think it's law firms and banks, they call them the greedy industry. The greedy industries thrive on having very insecure overachievers at the gate. The ones that are quote unquote street smart. You look around the table and you just imitate what everyone else is doing. So it's a different level of do you hear what I hear is always on a one-to-one basis away from the crowd. Lacking street smarts is the person who says, actually, this is a problem to the CEO, who everybody knows doesn't really want to hear and has no intention of addressing the problem. You're seen not as revolutionary or as helpful. You were saying, like, the first person to say, hey, I think Enron might be scam. That person got fired and started a blog. So, I mean, we look back at, like, that's how deep it went. GE Financial, the same thing. So yeah, that tendency to, like, don't rock the boat. I'm going to preserve myself by just being what they want me to be. That runs really deeply, and it's so entrenched and so encouraged that I think a lot of people aren't cognizant of it, and they certainly don't see the parallels between that and Soviet Russia, which sounds like a really big deal until you watch Chernobyl, like I have been doing with my husband for the past 2 days. It's a 5-hour docudrama on HBO, a very true to life retelling of the incidents of Chernobyl. And I think they're retelling it now to show, again, these parallels that if I had talked about it 4 years ago, people would have been like, well, don't you think that's a bit of a reach? It's a little dramatic to compare us to Soviet Russia. And I'm like, but people don't. And this isn't a new thing, but this is where, how many times you've been in a room, it's like no one is saying the thing that needs to be said. Mm-hmm. So I, now that I'm out of that, I'm tired of being the crazy woman. I'm tired of being that person that's like, actually, I'm going to help you by pointing out the problem. And everyone's like, that's not helpful. And all the times I've done extra and realized, like, oh, that wasn't appreciated. That was expected. I'm tired. I've got a lot of bandwidth. I can do a lot. I'm capable of amazing things. And I'll be damned if I'm going to spend another second of it throwing it into a black hole type of corporate environment. And I'm going to be grateful every day for my husband who does that so I can do this. Yay! And also cognizant of the fact that you do all of this at the moment, unpaid. I feel like I have to fill that paycheck gap with all the appreciation I actually feel so that you never question, why am I doing this? Because MK loves me. Not that I'm trying to create the same trap we were both raised in. But it's a praise trap instead of an overachiever trap.
Well, but it is very different. And, this is a huge left turn for me that I sometimes feel, I feel very strange explaining it to people at, like, a church picnic, which is where I just came from. And, like, sort of seeing all of these, this is the church that I actually grew up going to. And we just started attending again recently because I would really like for my daughter to feel sort of at home there. The youth group at that church in particular was, oh my God, it was so important for me. My mom died when I was in 8th grade. And then all of high school was, honestly, I was kind of a hot mess all of high school. And I had friends at school, but I felt very alone. I felt very unlike most people. And this church community just had really amazing kids that I really connected with. And, my daughter, especially if I don't have any more kids, my daughter is going to need somebody to save her from me. So I want her to feel like, Mom, it's Sunday night. I'm going to youth group. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to my own age who understand me, unlike you. Because I'm sure she's gonna feel very misunderstood. And I want to kind of open doors to as many spaces as possible where she does feel understood. Because that church was really, I think, the last community I was a part of where people regularly I was never expected to get over the fact that my mother had died. Like, nobody was like, all right, Sarah, yeah, we get it. Your mom died. It's very sad. Like, it's been 4 years. Are we still on this? No one ever, gave me that sense. And I was always very welcome to feel whatever I was feeling. And I ran into the youth leader who headed up this group, took us on our service trips, that kind of thing. And it was just like seeing her again. I just remembered, like, oh my gosh, there was so much love in this place. And my family didn't really get it, but I loved being here. And that's what it was all about. It's a Unitarian church. So there's also it's just really a great community in general. And it matters a lot. It matters so much to feel like the things that are still, that are always in you, like the things that really kind of affect how you move through the world all the time, are seen and validated by other people. And you are a person who has seen and validated me and so many other runners, since the day I started working with you, since the first phone call I had with you. So if I'm going to, yeah, me too. If I'm going to go anywhere and, like, hang around without a paycheck for a while, this is where I want to hang out. This is a good place. And
you're doing amazing stuff.
Well, thank you. You are doing amazing stuff. You are working. So everybody, MK is working so hard. I know you know that. You don't know half of it. But we love it. We're so excited.
When I say I keep saying there's a lot coming up, and all of it will be visible eventually. But like I said, I'm very risk averse. I'm very strategic, and I've been planning this out for a very long time, like 7 years longer. I mean, there's a part of me that's really been planning this out my whole life. Yeah. But I know what's coming up in the fall, and I can't wait to show everyone else the things that are coming up in the fall too. But before we get there, I would be remiss if I did not remind everyone that if you plan, the next thing that will be introduced, the next object in the fitness protection world, will be the training plans for fall races. And the half marathon plans, and this is my fear here. I'm like, when you do something different, what do other people
hear?
The word
plans. You said the word plans. Let's be serious.
It's when you are a long-term thinker and you keep getting into the day-to-day sort of stuff, then you don't need a lot of lead time because you're not pivoting in a big way. So what I mean by that is that even before I got into marathoning, part of my dad's cardio rehab, what we were jogging 6 days a week for an hour. That was it. And it never changed. What changed was how much time we needed to spend in different much lower bands. The faster, the more efficient that we all got and the stronger we got, then you're not running at 140 all the time. It's like, okay, great. Well, now Tuesdays and Thursdays are dropping down to 110. And if I brought that out, right, that would be the reaction if I brought that out into these training programs. But this is what I mean when I say, like, the world, I've said, or at least I've said it before, the world shifts significantly when your pace at 140 drops below a 9-minute mile. The next time it shifts really significantly and painfully, I would argue, is when that drops below a 7-minute mile. And because if you think of training like an unfit body, it's a gorgeous body, man. It's like a tube of toothpaste. And I love those bodies. I can squeeze anywhere and get it like that, just not on the body, on the toothpaste tube. I can squeeze anywhere to get a result.
Yes.
It's right. Once you get below the 7-minute mile, that is an almost empty tube of toothpaste. You got to know where to squeeze, how to hold it. It's like the ones my husband will not stop until it's done, and he's like squeezed every. You wouldn't know that I was
buy one of those things at the store where you go.
Yes,
those things.
Yes, I use those for years. But he's like, nope, it misses places. It misses places. He's got his way, and I'm like, wow, that is the next level.
Call Alex Fleming. We have a sub 7-minute miler here. We need Alex Fleming in the house.
Oh my God. But it's really true. When you think about stiff brews, I talk about a concept of range, and a range is the spread between your 5K pace and like your easy effort pace. Or for Steph Bruce, just because those numbers I think are scarier. When you think about your average heart rate, what it would be at a 5K effort versus a marathon effort, right? So Stephanie Bruce's spread is 20 seconds.
Jordan Hasay's is even less. She does not. She actually doesn't compete at the 5K. And even the 10K for her is just like not really her distance, because in order to compete with the best, she needs to be running a much longer distance, and she doesn't have that spread. She doesn't have those faster gears because it's so infinitesimal, Anyway.
So instead of looking, I know that what we usually do, the type of framework we used to evaluate like ourselves and the runners around us is like, oh, that person's really fast and I'm really slow. And you've reduced so many variables to a greater than, less than. And that's my daughter's doing that in first grade. So congratulations on doing first grade math. Let's up the ante a little bit. When we look at range, and the first time most of us learn about range is in a statistics class in college. So here we go. Want to get smarty smart? Let's get out of first grade and into college. Not to say that everyone should go to college, but everyone should at least do a week's worth of statistics. Statistics is amazing. But when you look at the range and you look at Stephanie Bruce and you realize that when she's racing a 5K, it's like a 4 minutes, 58-second mile on a track. And then when she's racing a marathon, it's like a 5-minute, 20-second mile. And you think about her heart rate where it is like probably around 160 average for the marathon and like 180 plus for a 5K. That is so much harder. Mm-hmm. That is so much harder. And all she got was 20 seconds out of it. You know, like I love the fact I'm like, I got a big old range, y'all. Look at that. Like, woo.
Like when I did that workout on the track this morning, sailing, that you have the June people doing, where you've got 5K pace here and then half marathon pace over here. I mean, like I give myself a 30-second range for my 5K pace all by itself because that's it. My 5K pace could be anything from, you know, this to this with 20 seconds in between. And I'll be like, cool, that's good enough. I love that.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And I feel like that's always such an important thing. Like when we talk about how fast they are, we don't talk about the work. We don't talk about what they put in. We don't have a real appreciation for what makes these people amazing. And they're amazing because they do things that I just don't want to do. And neither do you. Like the way they love it. This is not to denigrate them in any way, but I ate trash for breakfast. I bet she didn't. I drank trash last night. I bet she didn't. You know, so that there's sort of the ability to deviate. We all have it. I call it tightrope thinking. Like I must make every perfect decision because I'm walking this tightrope, and if I deviate, I'm going to fall and crash. And I'm like, that's what it's like to be an elite or a professional athlete. Like everything, food is fuel, and no one cares if you like it because you've got to get these macronutrients. Mm-hmm. For the rest of us, like we can be like, I don't feel like thinking about it tonight. Going to have pizza. Yeah. It's a luxury and it's empowering. And why would you feel less than by having more options? And it's never about greater than, less than. It's just when I find myself in that less than mentality, which I think is so common with the runners that I work with, I'm kind of like, hey, you're not lazy because you don't want to do that work. How much work do you really want to do? You are not. And again, let's go watch Chernobyl. Those people, like for 400 rubles and the exchange rate for a ruble to $1, they had to, in 1986 when Chernobyl happened, they had to go get a group of miners, like a coal miner from Belarus, to dig for reasons that are just not worth explaining because science is science. But they had to dig, and they dug around the clock naked for a month because it was so hot. That's how, like, the radiation was literally warm. So they were digging and digging and digging and digging, and their families were given a stipend that year of 400 rubles, which was a princely sum at that period. But when you think about the risk, and most of them died, like that sort of what was all that for? Like, and with that type of perspective, it has been said by pretty much every manager I've ever had, MK, I just don't know how to incentivize you. And I'm like, you mean you don't know how to manipulate me into doing more work for less money? Yeah, it's tough. Conundrum. You should read Who Moved My Cheese. The first inkling I get that carrot is moving or the cheese is about to turn, I sit still. Like, what? You know, and I don't see that as defiant. I see it as prudent. Yeah. But that's me. I feel like we got ways away.
Yeah, so I think we can check off this part where it says chatter welcoming each other. I think we did that.
Yep.
This has been light banter on the Fitness Protection Podcast.
Oh, I've got my calendar out.
We need to get the calendars out, people, because believe it or not,
because when you're in the mode of doing this stuff year round, the way that I do, like this year I've been the least consistent I've ever been for reasons. I stand by them. But part of the reason that it's such a big deal to me is because, like, I just want to get back to my routine, and then I will feel sane again, because it's like, I don't know what to do when I wake up and I don't get to run in the morning. But so what the Fitness Protection Program was intended to do was sort of encourage everyone to do what I do without the pressure that comes if the only time you run is when you're on a training plan, because you can't get motivated to get out the door. You can't make yourself do it. There's no reason. There are so many other things that could crawl in and take that space. Great. If you don't want to train with me, fine. You can come in and you can have the plan for the cost of the subscription. You can come in and have the plan and do your own thing, and you don't have to get in Facebook groups. You don't have to listen to these podcasts, and you don't have to show up to the Q&A. You don't have to do anything. It's just making sure that you have something that you're accountable for, that you're more likely to execute because you put a little skin in the game just by paying for it. All you have to do to get your money's worth is watch 2 of the videos in the membership area of the site and take the one of all the download codes available to you out of Training Peaks and put it in your Training Peaks and go. So to that end, I do want to make sure that the people who are like, well, I'd like to stay, what's possible. okay. But if you're not careful, we have to really get different results. We have to really actually do things differently.
Yeah.
And if you're coming in at the last minute, then you're treating this like a 20-week training or a 22-week training plan, which was not what I wanted. I wanted to be like, hey, we're going to make a super big base, which you will have after 3 months here. After 3 months, you've got this huge base, and then you can do whatever you want as long as you don't stop for anything other than recovering. And you can take a day off here and there, that's fine. But like if you quit the program, walk away, I'm just going to do this on my own, you won't. Most people don't, because most people were not traumatized by a massive cardiovascular event that in their family that left them like almost destitute when they were 6 years old. That's a me thing. And you're not less than because you don't have that fear basically in the back of your head all the time. That's how I know most people won't. Or they're going to, we're all really busy. We've got huge demands on our time. 5 days a week of running is going to turn into 2 days of Orange Theory that leaves you really sore, or CrossFit. And there's nothing wrong with either one, but 2 days a week Orange Theory is not the same as what we're doing. So you can't pivot from that and say, I'm ready for the 10-week marathon plan. And I'm like, there is no 10-week marathon plan. There is a 10-week marathon ramp where we ramp up from what we're doing, but you can't ramp up if you're not on the interstate. So I think of it as 3 months here consistently and successfully doing, I'd say 80% of the runs plus, and all of the long runs or most of the long runs. I think of that as like you're on the highway. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So you're in the on-ramp if you're in the first 3 months.
Yeah.
So to that end, and here are the dates that are key. If you're running Marine Corps, there are 52 weeks in a year. Sarah, what week are we on right now?
Fuck if I know.
Come on, Harvard. You're really smart.
What?
No, but seriously, this is unfortunately, when we don't know the answer, we get embarrassed. We feel like we're being called out. We feel really stupid. You are not stupid for not knowing that. So the person listening is like, well, what day is it again? I have to look. It's the 9th. And that's okay. So it's we're the first week of June. No, second week of June, technically.
So
first
that's
full
5 months times 4 is 20. So it's got to be what, 22, 23? What, 22 or 23, right? 5 months have gone by: January, February, March, April, May, and now we're 2 weeks into June. So that's 5 times 4, 20 weeks, plus 2 in June.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay. How many weeks from now till Marine Corps? Marine Corps Marathon is October 26th.
Marine Corps Marathon is October 26th.
Always, sorry, the 19th. It's 2 weeks before the New York City Marathon, which is the first weekend in November.
Okay. So if that's 3 weeks into October, so there's 3 weeks in October, 4 weeks in September, 4 weeks in August, 4 weeks in July. I lost count, MK. Just give me the answers. Just show me the sheet.
I'm saying this is it doesn't mean that we're stupid or irresponsible. It just means like October feels really far away, especially because we are just coming out of May, which is horrifying no matter how you slice it or how old your kids are. My kids are 7, 6, 4, and 1.5. And we just went through a big transition week. And finally next week, everyone is back in their day camps for the summer. And I can't wait. But I feel like I barely had time to breathe. So I realized recently I am 21 weeks out from the New York City Marathon. But I know this because I opened Training Peaks on my desktop and it reminded me 21 weeks from New York City Marathon. So if you don't have a training plan, then you're probably not using Training Peaks. And if you have not entered that next race because either you haven't decided or you're still weighing your options, you probably have no idea how far out you are from aforementioned target race. So if you're a Training Peaks user and you go in there occasionally, it's worth typing in the date of your race just so that you have a clock somewhere giving you that information. Because the only calendar I've ever seen that has the option to turn on which week you are in a year is your Google Calendar. And we're in week 24. I
was pretty damn close, if I may say so.
Close, but we're further in. But here's the point: we're further. You said 21 or 22. It's actually 24. We are further into the year than you realized, which means there is less lead time. If you're running St. George, it's like, oh wait, I'm in week 17. I'm behind.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where most people are. They don't think about it. That's far away. I've got a lot to do. I'm going to think about this right now because I'm rational. I'm sentient. I'm a badass. This is how badass, rational, sentient people with a whole lot going on look at things. I will think about that later. Later is now, you guys. It is now. If you're running the Marine Corps Marathon on October 19th, then you would have to start exercising. You would get on the marathon on-ramp at August 17th. You cannot use the marathon on-ramp if you are not on the if you're not on the highway now. You better get on the highway by June 3rd. Oops.
So last Monday, guys.
You might want to use. I do not sell. This is not a 10-week marathon preparation plan. That does not exist. It would be stupid. It is a ramp. It's an up ramp from a very high base that if you have not started, it's time to start. We're already a week behind. And I say that lovingly because we've got, I think 168 people right now between the two programs. Ooh. So, I know I'm really excited about that. I'm proud. But if anyone is listening to this because you're weighing the option to join us in the fall, again, the sooner you get in, the better, because if you show up on August 23rd and you're like, I would like the 10-week option for the New York City Marathon, I'm going to be like, you can do whatever you want, but I don't recommend it. It is perfectly clear everywhere. And I'm not going to get on the phone with people anymore and be like, well, I did this, and this, and I did the best I could, because I'm not here to tell you. I mean, I'm still going to get on the phone with people occasionally. Office hours it's going to be a while before that comes back in. I need a more manageable schedule first. Because right now, frankly, I'm all over the place. But a lot of those, you guys still have office ways of getting me. It's just that back and forth on the phone. Needs to be, I really got to be more judicious about my time at the moment. But that's not to say I'm not going to help people through race strategies and race plans. It just means that everything is going to be presented very differently starting soon. The race plans, God willing, they're going to come out and they will be available in the membership area of the website when I come back from my vacation, which is allegedly supposed to be, God willing, the July the 5th. So I'm leaving on the 22nd on a big drive across to the Ozarks, Lake of the Ozarks with the family. We're coming back on the 5th because a friend of mine's having surgery and I'm going to hang out in her house and take care of her for a couple of days. And then we're cooking with Crisco on the 8th and that's coming up really soon. But that I say that date was pretty carefully calculated too. Like I wanted to make sure I had it soon, but not too soon. So it was a long way of saying if you are not yet in Maintain, we need to be getting over there now, because it feels like a whole long time till October, but 10 weeks is still 2.5 months. You're 30 weeks pregnant. You're not done. Not by a long shot. You got 2 months.
Oh my God, you are not done.
Ugh. I remember 30 weeks always felt like, yeah, I turned a corner. Wait, I'm nowhere near it. Or we're mile 20 of the marathon. It's like, nope, you got a 10K left, y'all. Like that's another hour or so of running at this pace. You ain't done. So
yeah, 30 weeks and my sciatic nerve was like, fuck you. You are living in hell now. Have fun with that. I am here to stay.
And once it gets painful, you realize how not done you actually are. So exactly. that was the point. The broader point I really wanted to make is kind of like not to terrify everyone, but to make it really clear. It's time. Later is now. Put it off no longer if you want to exercise the fall racing plans, but you don't have to. Just saying, if that is an option, that option will not be available to you until you have completed 2, preferably 3 months in Maintain.
That's right.
Rebuild is a different story. What people can do coming from Rebuild is made perfectly clear, and I think in the membership area of the website. Go back and double check. I think it is. I'm like, I would rather you didn't go from from Rebuild to racing, because Rebuild to racing is how a lot of people got into Rebuild and needed to rebuild in the first place. So Rebuild is the program for people that are either rebuilding from injury or pregnancy, or just like a period 6 months plus of just maybe not running, maybe not doing anything. It's not the penalty box. It's more like, let's be cautious jumping back in too hard, because I watch people do boom bust in dieting and exercising. And well, I really want to lose weight, so I'm going to train for a marathon, is I'm going to start running. Well, the only way I'm going to keep running is if I train for something really, really, and it's got to be big. Like it can't be something small. I need a big goal, an audacious goal, or I'm not going to take the training seriously. So I'm going to run this marathon. And I'm like, that is common logic, but that's not logic that leads to success. I would rather just like, let's just keep running, doing this. And on top of this, you can do whatever you want. Do Orange Theory with your friends one day a week. You know, don't, you know, it's if we make this the habit that we wrap everything else around, then you have all the options in the world. I've got people that I'm training this year that are doing St. George in September, then the Marine Corps Marathon, then the New York City Marathon, and Chicago too. So sorry, it's St. George, Chicago, Marine Corps, New York City in that order.
Woo!
And if you met these people, they don't, you wouldn't, I don't, knowing what we consider a runner, quote unquote, finger quote to be, you wouldn't like walk into them and be like, well, those people are athletes. Because they're like, you know, I just have more available to me because I've been training this way, the way I maintain for almost 3 years. They just don't stop. So with you can ramp up to whatever you want when you don't stop. But there's no, I want the training plan that's going to get me ready to, and I'm like, that's the wrong way to look at it. You need the lifestyle that's going to give you the ability to opt into all the trips you want to take and all the stuff you want to do. It's not about the training plan. It never was. If you thought it was, you weren't paying attention.
I just want to say something real quick about Amy Wilson in Maintain, because Amy Wilson, if you're listening, and I know you will because you're amazing. So this is the year that she has had so far. She had a spring marathon. She ran Sugarloaf Marathon about a month ago now, I guess. Yes. And she finally had a race where everything really came together. Amy Wilson spent almost all of last year in the monthly plans that was sort of the previous iteration of Maintain. And she just had a really amazing race. It finally worked out for her. I met her last year. Oh, yeah, go me. I met her last year in June at a half marathon we did together in Vermont, Covered Bridges. And we ran into each other like about halfway through. And it was my second time doing Covered Bridges and her first time. And she was having a really tough day. And I was like, yeah, you know what? People talk about how this race is a net downhill, but it is really tough the first time you do it. You are not prepared for the hills. You're not prepared for the heat and the lack of shade. So I was actually having a really good day because I knew what to expect. I had adjusted my expectations and I was having a good time. And I really felt for her in that situation where she was like, she had kind of big plans for that race and it didn't go her way. And she was bummed out. It was really wonderful to meet her. I also met Fran Scheller. Yay. And so anyway, finally this year.
So we Maintained today. I saw her name right before.
Yay, I met her and I was so excited. So fast forward to this year, Amy Wilson runs the Sugarloaf Marathon, her fastest marathon ever, which is amazing. She ran a really big PR. She was really happy with herself. She has been hanging in there and just on this wavelength where she is ready to ramp up to a marathon. But here's the good part. Here's the good part. Here's the even better part. I forgot that she was doing Covered Bridges again. Covered Bridges half marathon 2 weeks after Sugarloaf, 2 weeks. And she was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna, take it real easy and I'll go for some easy runs. And then I'm going to go for this like really easy chill run in Vermont where there are some bridges. And I was like, you're doing Covered Bridges again? Whatever you do, don't charge up that hill at mile 8. And I was thinking, I just hope she has a better experience. She's like, yeah, I'm really prepared for this mentally. I'm just going to have fun this time. Well, she was having a pretty good day and she fucking crushed it. She ran so much faster than last year, but because she didn't even care. Right? Because she was just there. She is just like, she has this amazing base of fitness and she ran with Cindy and they killed it. Her last 3 miles were so fast because of course I went on Strava and was like, Amy! So I'm sorry for embarrassing you, Amy, but I'm really, really happy for you. And then the coda to this is that the other day her husband was like, hey, you want to run this 3.1 mile trail race? And she's like, yeah. And she went and she swallowed a bug by accident. But she had a lot of fun. And she's just really happy where she is right now. She is fit enough to kind of YOLO the races that she wants to do. But she doesn't just get to do that. She gets to do that because she has been doing this. She has been in a version of Maintain for a really long time now. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, that's funny. That's the thing that people ask me, like, what do I have to do to PR this year? And I'm like, keep going.
Exactly.
Honestly, that's people are like, well, no. I've done this really hard. And here's the kiss of death for a coach. If you hear this, and this is my advice to you, Sarah, if you hear this ever, just, you have to stop talking because nothing is going in.
Listen.
Well, here's what I do. That's it. Well, here's what I do. Because they're like, that's really nice, but they're not asking a question.
Right.
They're like, it's almost a challenge. Like, well, here's what I do. You saying I'm doing it wrong? Yes. No, you know what? You ain't paying me. It's a pretty day. Like, you're great. That sounds amazing. And I get really uncomfortable. This happened to me on Friday night with a really lovely group of women. Somebody's like, this one woman couldn't walk. She was like, yeah, I went for a run today. And then the others sitting around look at me and I'm like, oh, please, no. I looked over my shoulder hoping they would go too. And I'm like, maybe she could give you some pointers. I'm like, I don't know. And this particular person, she's like, well, here's what I do. And I'm like, I mean, now it's socially awkward because none of these women really know me. But he isn't this, they're, you know, it's like, okay, you should talk to her. And I'm like, it's just like when my dad would do this whenever we go to church, you should talk to this person. I'm like, that person does not want to talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't like me. Partially because they don't like you, but they really don't like me. Come on. Don't make me do this. So I get in this situation a lot socially. So it's like when I say I'm introverting, what I'm doing is I'm avoiding that trap that somehow I can't get out of. MK, tell me, like, no, I'm not Superwoman in to save the day with my cape. Like, So it was just really, really weird having to sit there with her, like, you know, well, I am back in Colorado and this and that. And I went on these hills and I know what I need. I know I need to get like back on the track and do some intervals. And I know I need to get work on my sprint speed and work on my footwork and work on my foot strike. And I'm like, la, 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 la. You hear what I hear? Like, there's just nothing you can do. So I sat there, said nothing and apologized to the host on the way out. I'm like, this is why you can't take me anywhere. She's like, no, I get it. It's a very East Coast. People talk at each other and don't listen. Right. I'm like, maybe the problem is me, that I'm just so used to working with clients and they listen. And it's such an amazing thing. I would rather talk to clients all day long than go try to make new friends. Because that's, if I run into that, what do you do? What do you do in a situation where your friend's about to do something really stupid and you cannot talk them out of it? Like, this action is not going to lead to the result that you want. How do you stop that from happening and maintain the relationship? As a coach, I can do that. As a peer, I can't.
Yep. And I'm starting to be in those situations too. It's really interesting, actually.
I was like, do not tell anyone you're a run coach anywhere you go ever. Tell them you're a podcaster.
Okay. There we go. Well, I can still listen. I can still tell them I work at Harvard. So until that runs out on me.
Well, careful saying you work at a startup because that's a very specific. My husband likes to introduce me as a startup, but what a startup is I have an idea and I have a revenue model that looks really good on paper. And now I'm looking for investors.
Yes.
Because startups don't grow organically. They grow explosively with huge amounts of capital. So, and I have an MBA from Wharton. I was an investment banker. I was a trader. I know a lot of people in this world, and I'm like hell. I'm going to walk up to them and say I have a startup because then they want to talk startup language, and I'm like, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not playing this game. I'm like, I am an entrepreneur with small business and a podcast. I'm a micro influencer. Thank you very much. What's a micro influencer? Like. Influencers can't monetize that influence. Micro influencers can. It's a brand new thing. Then people were like, oh, that's very interesting. I'm like, but we're not going to be doing it by selling ad revenue, which is why you've been listening to the podcast up to this point and have not heard an advertisement. It's very important to me that this becomes an arm of what we do. And we do this to facilitate conversation with our people. It is marketing to a degree where people can search through iTunes, hopefully, and find us because it's so hard to find new running podcasts. At the same time, I'm not trying to make money off this podcast, and I never will. So, I get a little money from the Morning Mantra. I did that initially just to see how that worked, to learn about it. And now I'm like, oh man, this is dying. Forget it. I'm not even going to bother. I think total off that podcast, I've made $700 since November, and most of that came with my skin partnership. So it's just a whole lot of work, not that much money. And people hate ads, hate them. Like the second they see an ad come on, a lot of people just turn the podcast off or get really angry if you're running and you can't hit the button to skip through it. Yeah. It's almost, it makes them indignant. So I'm hoping to avoid that as much as humanly possible. Shiloh, I love you. I'm recording though. I need you to go. Can you go give me a kiss? I love you. I'll be down in a few minutes. Can you shut the door, please? Thank you. Sorry.
I'm amazed by that my interrupters have not interrupted yet. My husband's phone is even in this room and the door is shut. So I think we're on borrowed time.
That is something right there.
I know. I texted him and then I realized, it's just vibrating over. Okay. Everyone's still sleeping, I guess. That dude on weekends when he does not have work to do, poor guy, he works all the freaking time, but on weekends when he doesn't have work to do, he naps longer than Roz does. He is like, I am out and I'll see you in 4 hours.
My husband is a koala bear. He could sleep for 23 hours, wake up, poop, and go right back to bed. Like it's kind of amazing. But that's a function of living on a submarine. My husband's an veteran. Yeah, and he was a submarine officer for 6 years, and they have this thing called the Vulcan Death Watch, which is 72 hours of no sleep. So he can do fully functioning operations in his sleep. Like he could wake up, read, sign an important document, go right back to bed, and then talk about that document the next day. And I know this because I've had to wake him up from naps, and I'm like, "You weren't awake," and he's like, "No, I was awake enough." And he repeats like the contract verbatim. And I'm like, I don't even understand how that's possible. I don't get a full night's sleep. I'm barely responsible for what comes out of my mouth the next day. But it's not a healthy thing, but it is very, very, very fun at parties when he walks in on the couch, falls asleep. And then it's like, I heard everything through the snoring. And we're like, snoring is kind of epic. So, yeah, he's done that before.
Yeah, no, this is usually around the time when everyone starts to wake up and Roz gets to watch movies on the weekend. So afternoon after nap is her like movie time. And this is the only TV in the house right behind me. Might be some Moana music up in here.
Moana. Oh my gosh. My kids just recently found out that The Secret Life of Pets 2 came out yesterday, and they're very angry that I did not take them to see it yet. And I'm like,
opening day, kids? You really wanted to do opening day?
They don't know. They don't know. Like Toy Story 4, that is thankfully coming out while we're in the Ozarks. So that'll be something we can do out there. Because what we're doing is we're just getting a houseboat, because my husband has these hats made right now. He's very excited about this hat. It says Captain Daddy. That came out of my son's mouth a couple of years ago. My son is autistic, and 2 years ago, I think. So kind of the evolution of this is 2 years ago we went to. We really hadn't been doing family vacations for reasons, and then our house is being renovated, and we were going to have the middle floor scraped and all the water turned off because we were renovating the kitchen. And my husband was supposed to book a place for all of us to go. We were going to take vacation that week. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, I'm like, "Why haven't you packed yet? This is so unlike you." I'm the one that packs as I'm walking out the door because I use it and then it goes in the bag, and I'm like, okay, I just put on my bra, 6 bras. All right. Oh, my running outfit, 6 running bras. So that's how I do it. So if I'm going through the process, I can't forget it. Packing 5 days in advance does not work for me, because inevitably I will need something in that bag, take it out and forget to put it back in. So we have different styles, but my husband is that person. He never really unpacks, but he travels for work. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, "Why haven't you packed yet? This is unlike you." And he's like, oh. I'm like, mother. So I am. Shiloh is like a little, almost 12 months old. Yeah. 13 months old. He's 13 months old. So I had a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 13-month-old in a house with no running water, and construction happening. And it's the week that there is no preschool or daycare, and it's in March, and all of our sitters are on spring break. I was trapped with bottles of water and buckets in the backyard. And it's too cold because it was March for us to even like play in the backyard. So I was kind of pissed. I'm like, what's the next school break? And I looked ahead, and I know my husband really well. And so when I like to be cold, he does not. I like to be cool. I want to go north.
Me too.
And north. Like that is those are the options: north and northeast or northwest or dead north. Where are we going? One of the three. So I looked at Maine. I'm like, I want to go. Let's go to Maine. I bet it'll be fun. And I started looking for camps that were like Club Med type. And I say Club Med. The reason Club Med became a thing is because the child care is free. Yes, it's godly expensive, but for a certain set, it's cheaper than bringing the nanny. So I need something like that, or a summer camp there that we could drop off every day. There's got to be some reasonable way to do this. And what we found, I'm not going to say the name of the place because we had a fantastic time, but the other thing I counted on happening did happen, which was we where the cabin that we were supposed to get was actually a trailer, like a for real trailer. My husband, I don't think he's been up close before. You know, they took vacations on the family plane when he was little. So it's a very different lifestyle. But he likes to camp. I don't like to camp. But I was like, I bet we'll see if you can handle this. And he couldn't. It was we called it the spider trailer of doom because there were spiders all over it.
Oh my God.
Great on day one. And I know, but we paid for the whole thing in advance. So we're not like, I know he's not going to leave. And on the second day, and they had the day camp, and it was terrific. Like, we've got nothing but good to say about this. Is where people like firefighters or police officers, people with families with pensions, back when a job with a pension was a great thing to have and widely available, like stable middle class America. This is where you would come every summer for the summer, very Dirty Dancing style, going to the Poconos or whatever. So this, it was lovely, and it was great. And on day two, RJ was not really verbal yet. He would communicate, but he would not initiate, if that makes sense. So if you were to ask him that something, he would give you the answer, but he wasn't very interactive. And we were given a warning. He bit a girl today. And I don't ever want to be this mom. But I'm like, what did she do? But it begs the question. He does not just something would have had to happen, and it would have had to be, he's like a rattlesnake. If you get in his face, yeah, he's going to bite. Otherwise you can coexist and not know that the rattlesnake's there. So, the mom of the bitten child threw such a fit, and to give her grace, I can understand it if my kid had been bitten too. And the mom was like, well, what did she do? I didn't understand that was her standing right there, but whatever. So I stayed quiet. I feel like this is something to be resolved. I'm thinking like, okay, well, if she touched something in his hand, that would have elicited the response. If she were to touch his face, because he's not responding to her, that would have elicited a bite. Because I'm trying to go through the list because anyway, so he got kicked out of day camp that day. And we're like, well, what? This is the whole reason we're here. We are not spending all day in the spider trailer of doom. Alex then pivoted, turned around, and decided to play like, I'm just going to, you know what? We're going to stay my way. He very much took control of the situation, was like, okay, so how much do you make an hour? She's like, $9.50. He's like, I'm going to pay you $22 an hour for the rest of our trip here, all 4 days. If you'll be our personal guides to all of the events and would just effectively nanny for us, since the reason we're here just evaporated. She was like, give me 5 minutes. Came back. She's like, done. Got the week off. And now this girl comes with us on all of our family vacations. She's going to be meeting us out. And what we pay her is probably great. But when you look at the time she puts in, you know, there aren't that many opportunities for her to earn this type of, you know, straight cash through the year. And she's like, this is going to pay for my apartment for the rest of the semester. And I'm like, how did you find an apartment that cheap? But okay, I don't ask questions.
Right.
Where it started. So that we were like, okay, well now, you know, this place inside and out, what do we do? She's like, let's rent a boat. And we got a houseboat and a big pontoon. Cause it was the only one they had left, cause it was 4th of July week. But we had an amazing week, and our RJ was like, are you going to be Captain Daddy? And he was like, I am going to be Captain Daddy. So that is where Captain Daddy was born. We ended up having a much better week than we expected. And we had another place to sleep other than the spider trailer of doom, which we would not have known otherwise. So now all of our vacations are he plans them. Captain Daddy gets very excited. And we went to Coeur d'Alene last year and had a fantastic time. Coeur d'Alene's
love Coeur d'Alene.
And now we're going to Lake of the Ozarks. So I think next year will end up being Michigan. We just want bigger and bigger freshwater. He's like, no, I want freshwater, not saltwater lakes. I'm like, I don't know the difference and I don't really care. But yeah,
I'm with him on that. Yeah. Yeah.
that is our vacation origin story and how we turned a really not great situation into something really cool that we now do every year.
That's
with
amazing.
The same person. It was fun. I have to give him a lot of credit there. He turned that situation around in a way I did not expect, and it all worked. Because all I wanted was for him to get involved in vacations and care. Like he's a workaholic that feels into Anne Helen Peterson had that beautiful piece today about workaholism and how it was the honorable addiction in the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
And my husband feels pressure to say yes to everything because of what could happen if he said no. And I'm like, well, that is how you know you're in an abusive, toxic work environment. And he was back then. He's in a much better one now. But all of that set in motion, the fact that you couldn't tell them that you needed a week off, that was due you, the fact that you couldn't tell me that you couldn't ask for it, that entrapment that you felt,
right? That's
real. But that's a sign that you're just in a place where you didn't need to be. Yeah. So he's in a much better place now. I'm in a better place now. It's been a very interesting couple of years how we've gone from there to here. But before we have to start wrapping up, because it's been almost an hour, do you want to tell everyone, practice one more time? What is it you're doing now? I mean, you're quitting Harvard for what?
Oh my God. I just came from the church picnic. I have to do this again. No, I think I'm getting better at it. I'm quitting Harvard, guys. Here's the thing. I quit Harvard a year ago and they're not letting me leave.
Because you're awesome.
Well, if I had been in this position a year ago, if people were trying to get me to stay so badly a year ago, I would have stayed. I would be there on like a long-term contract, I don't think we would have been having the conversations we've been having for the past year, because we first started talking about this a year ago. When that job I so almost got, the week that I moved into this house that I'm sitting in right now, it's even a longer story than this. And some people in the monthly plans might actually remember it because it was so up and down with this one department. I'm not going to say which one, this one department, this one office at Harvard that had really, they led me on about a couple of different jobs and then they dropped me and I thought we were done. And then they came back to me and said, oh, well, there's this other position. And it was a better position. It was like an associate director of something. And they wanted me to interview again. So I did an interview with them. I did an interview with HR. And then they were like, we want you to come and do an in-person all day. I had to plan a workshop. I had to plan to spend hours and hours there the same week that we moved into this house. But of course I said yes, because of course I was like, oh, they know me as a person. They wouldn't do this to me again, right? Like they wouldn't do this to me again, get my hopes up again for another job and then say no. So I really thought like all I have to do is get through this week and then it will all be worth it. Right. I was an asshole to everyone that week. I was an asshole because I was so stressed out because I had to plan a workshop to give to all these people. And the day before it happened, I locked myself out of my brand new house and met my neighbors by knocking on their door and sobbing and asking if I could use their phone to call my husband because I did not have anything with me. My phone, no money, no T-Pass, nothing to like get on the train and go get a key from him. Yeah. So he had to just come home from the office in the middle of the day because I was preparing for this interview and all my stuff was inside. I was a complete mess. I didn't get the job. Long story short, the day went amazing. I was vibrating for like a week and then I just didn't hear back. And that has been my experience solidly. Like some version of that has been going on in my life for the last 4 years. So that was the last straw. My husband was like, fuck Harvard. Let's stop applying for these things that people are going to talk a big game about and tell you how much they love you and how they think you're so great and then not actually do anything for you. We're done with this. The reason I'm in my job right now, I'm the associate director of the Language Center. I'm an associate director of a thing that I did not want to be the associate director of after all of that. But that is because the director of the Language Center passed away very suddenly a year ago. And there was this total vacuum. They freaked out. They had actually just moved into a new space and they had no one except for one temp who had been working with that director for a little bit. They had actually fired all the rest of their staff over the summer for reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. So I stepped in and they were like, it's just going to be for a few months until we hire a director. And a few months went by and they did hire a director and they were like, but please stay because actually you're now the only source of institutional knowledge that we have in this place. And so the new director started in March and I thought I would be done around then. And they were like, well, how much longer can you stay? And I was like, well, we're getting to a point now where I have stayed as long as you wanted, but I'm not going to stay forever because in March I knew that we were doing this and I knew that I only had so much time left, but that I was going to be willing to do two things. So I said, I'm leaving in the middle of August. They're trying to hire my replacement right now. And that's been interesting. And we haven't gotten very many good applications. And so people keep coming up to me and saying, well, maybe Sarah will change her mind and stay. And I'm like, no, this is the reason for telling this whole story is because my God, this is what I wanted for years, to finally feel kind of seen and feel like people really wanted me. Because I think I did contribute a lot. I contributed a lot to students who I'm still in touch with and to the department that I taught in and now to this. And now I finally feel like I'm working with people who genuinely wish I wouldn't leave. And it's not me being like, but won't you, look how awesome I am. But I have moved on in my head. I left Harvard a year ago and they haven't let me leave yet, but I am really ready. I'm really, really, really ready because it was always the right decision and it's still the right decision. And it feels really good to be leaving a job that I know is a very good job it's not the right job for me. And it never was. It was always temporary for me, but it is going to be a really good job for somebody. And I really hope that we get more applications. I really want to leave this director with a really great associate director because he is great. They made a great hire. And so I feel like I can leave that place and know it is not going to fall apart when I leave. It is going to do great things and I get to finally do what I want. And what I want is to be here. And this matters so much to me. This matters
working for somebody that doesn't know the difference between Boccatelli and DiGiorno.
Working someplace where I don't care how you pronounce that shit. It's not my job to correct you.
I probably didn't even get the name right. It's just at the sent from someone's Gianni, whoever's iPhone every time you email. And I'm like, I know you've explained to me who that is.
Giovanni Boccaccio. Yeah. Is that still my email signature? I changed it. I gave it up.
Oh, you did? Ooh.
I did. I know. So Giovanni Boccaccio is the author that I wrote my doctoral dissertation about that I actually then spent years revising and making into a book, which got rejected. Accepted and rejected, and that's another story that'll probably come out sometime, but not today. But yeah, he lived in the 14th century, so I thought it was hilarious to respond from his iPhone. And you know what? Lots of other people thought it was hilarious too. And so I kept it.
What's going to be hilarious, the first piece you do get published, and I can't say what that is right now, but compared to what you were trying to publish then, the first published one that will be sold on Amazon is about as far from that as you can get.
I know.
And it's going to be glorious.
I know.
So
range.
All the things that are coming out this year. Right? Yes, range, for sure. A really big one.
Really big one.
Full tubes of toothpaste, you guys.
Yeah, that's right. I got big zones for my 5K pace, and I like it that way.
I got big zones and I cannot lie. It's amazing. My God.
So what else do we need to cover before, because it has been, I actually don't even know how long it's been, but it's definitely been almost an hour.
It has to be close. I remember looking down at one point and seeing that it was 37 on the clock. So it is, we're getting close to that now. So no, I'm pretty sure that's everything. So the things that we do have coming up, we have Ask the Coach, and Ask the Coach is a live stream we do every Sunday night on the Fitness Protection Program's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch pages. They are live streams. They are captured, and we're going to be continuing to record those, capture them, and then put them out as podcasts. The next thing we have coming out in July, that's when all of the 10-week race plans. Now, you won't need them until August, most of you doing fall races, but
if you're racing with me, if you're racing with me at the end of September, you will need them in July. If you are racing on, let's say, September 29th, Clarence DeMar Marathon and Half Marathon, I got a couple people coming with me. But we start.
We'll gladly give you the draft document. Yeah. What will change in the draft document is the look and the feel as we work it out, as we work out how to make sure that it is as widely accessible to everyone as possible. Can this go into a screen reader? Can this go into a brailler? Is this accessible to people with severe reading disabilities? So once we have, and then how do we facilitate that for the people who, for everyone else? So making sure once we have all of this in play and all of the consultants that I'm working with and the specialists have signed off on it and said, yes, this is good. That's when it will go out to the public. But we are totally happy since the people that we are currently working with, if you do not have a disability that needs to, that we need to, let me back up. If you do have a disability and you need us to make changes to make this program more inclusive for you, let us know. info@coachandlove.com. Speak up. If you currently do not have a disability, but would like to see a draft document, understanding it is in a very rough form because your race is sooner than this window, or the 10-week window is about to open for you, let us know. We will gladly give you a draft document. But no, we are not going to be putting the draft documents up until they have met the standard of inclusion that I have set, which is a pretty high one. Podcasts, I understand the podcasts again are limited for in usability, but the key ones will be transcribed. I finally kind of narrowed things down, and but just until we have more income, transcription is pricey. Yeah. Either paying a bot to do it, and then all the corrections are necessary, so you have to then hire a human to go through it, or it's just cheaper to have a human do it from start to finish. I've learned that the hard way too. So with that in mind, we are going to start by transcribing and making the podcasts and the videos, the key ones, the ones that we consider to be the most important to the functioning of the program. We're going to start there, and then over time move it to everything. But one of the things that I like about the live streams, because I've gotten a lot of questions about that, well, why do you do all these videos? There's a button you can click in Facebook. One thing Facebook does really, really well, and YouTube does too, and it's closed captioning under the screen, and it is good. Yes. It is better than the AI transcription bots right now. So that is one of the reasons why I continue to broadcast through all the channels. And there will be more written material when I can find, when we got more income, but we got to start somewhere. And this is the direction we're moving with this in mind.
Yeah. So the point being that if you are racing this fall, you need to be in maintain. You need to be doing the runs as written, not the hard workouts necessarily, but you need to be getting the long runs in as written. Yep. You got to be out there for the time that is prescribed. And
you have to go hard. It's hard to go smart. I do not ever need anyone to do a hard workout other than the long run. If you think you might want to race, then the long run is de facto, because it's longer than an hour. And a hard run is anything that's over 140 or longer than 1 hour. By default, the long run is indeed a hard run, and you have to be doing those. The next thing that'll be coming out after the race plans, or hopefully, God willing, the race plans, the beta for Runner Interrupted should launch on August the 1st. If you have emailed me previously expressing interest, I'm going to be coming for you before the beta starts. I'm going to start by putting everyone in the Facebook group. Then if you are injured now and you are interested in beta testing, the Runner Interrupted program, email info@coachandlove.com. And if you do not expect a response, because sometimes when these things come in, emailing me 3 or 4 times, trust if you did send the email, I got the email, and you will know it, might not know it for a week or two. That's how much email I get, you guys. It's close to 700 a day. I can't possibly respond to everything, even no matter how badly I want to. At some point we will have an assistant, but poor Sarah is already working for free. I can't be like, hey, would you mind going into this email account too? Because also when you have 2 eyes in, trying to remember what needs to be marked as unread because this other person needs, it's really complicated. Right. So it's easier to see, like, I just look for Runner Interrupted in the subject line, and then it goes in a folder, and I will be reaching out to everyone in that folder after I come back from my vacation to be like, get over here. But we are finalizing this week. I'll be finalizing Runner Interrupted, and I'm very excited about that. Hopefully, so we'll have a beta test followed by a soft launch once I'm sure that this is the method and it doesn't need, it's different in form from the other programs. So I want to see how people respond to this. And if the beta testers like it, then this is the path. If they don't, and so far the beta testers have all that's come out of it is people really like it. And I don't feel the need to make big changes. It's more been small tweaks. This is one where it might need to be like, you know what, this idea, it literally does not work. So if that's the case, we'll start from scratch with another beta because I got plan B and plan C, but I think plan A is pretty good. But don't hold me to it. But that's what we're looking at for August, and then after that, we'll see. So build will not be starting until later because I realize as well until Coach Sarah has actually separated from Harvard and is coming in with a little more time. Build needs to come after Runner Interrupted because I have the bandwidth for Runner Interrupted. Build is going to need to be a little bit different, and that build. So remember that build and rebuild are kind of similar. The key difference is that build is for someone who is new to fitness, new to training, new to discipline, new to having a plan to follow in any form or fashion. It's a very different mentality than someone who is returning to fitness and doesn't need the encouragement or the continual yes, you're fine, yes, you're fine, yes, you're fine, yes, you're fine. Right. It's a different mentality and a different spirit that requires more high, would be a more high touch type of program, and I don't have the bandwidth for it. Neither do you, but you will at some point. So once we kind of sit back and we're like, hey, I think we're here, and my hope is we won't even have to beta test it. It'll just be a launch, and I'm hoping that will be October.
Yep.
But we might just be like, who is going to start this in October? Man, it's going to be after the holidays. So it could be October. It might be later. But yeah, if you are returning to fitness, rebuild is for you. If you are new to this whole fitness thing and you're still thinking about maybe starting running, then build is for you. What I was thinking when I put these pathways together was the conversation I didn't get to have initially with people is which program is right for me. They picked the race, they made the purchase, and then they had the coach. And by then all the big choices are already made. Now I get to have that conversation all the time. Am I in the right program? Am I in the right program? And the number of people that have opted into rebuild thinking they needed the remedial course when I'm like, no, you're fine. You can be in maintain.
Exactly. People are really thinking about what they want. They're thinking about it in terms of what they want and what they need, which is so great.
And we're part of that conversation, which is exactly what I always wanted. Do you think I'm ready for this? Not, well, I want the 3-day-a-week plan or the 4-day-a-week plan. This is what I do. None of that. Well, this is what I want. And I want a PR. So of course I'm going to pick this plan. I'm actually part of PRs are possible, by the way, if you don't stop. It doesn't really matter. You don't need speed work. And if you're trying to do traditional, everyone needs strides. Strides are big bang for the buck for your time. You don't need traditional track intervals. You do not need tempo runs. You can get better with a lot of different things. Let's start with the low hanging fruit and work our way towards the harder stuff. This mentality of I can't get faster without speed work. You're going to get injured if you don't have the strength required to support your tendons, joints, ligaments, and which move your muscles. When we do speed work, you need a lot of strength to run around a track really quickly. Why would you do that instead of, I get it. It's probably more fun than trying to do strength work, but this is why we go live all the time. So that's my rant. I know at some point, I will brainwash everyone into the very true understanding and belief that strength is key. And then when we've maxed out kind of what we can and want to do there efficiently and time-wise, then and only then do we turn to the really hard stuff that tears your body up, rips your soul out, and makes you need to poop. No one ever poops from a workout unless that workout was a tempo run or a run that was harder than easy effort for longer than it probably should have been.
Yeah.
But I can't say that either, and I couldn't for a really long time. It's like, why do I get the trots on the run? And I'm like, because you're running too hard for too long. When you take a 20-minute tempo run and turn it into a 40-minute tempo run, or even better, you're not wearing a heart rate monitor at all and you're just going because that's what you do. You want to run by feel. Okay, but you ain't feeling it when you're in this high zone. I had to stop 4 times to poop. How does that not tell you something?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I love how we talk about it, though. It's because it's always the wrong question, and it starts with the question. So I've had to set up the structure here to force the right questions and the right conversation.
And it has.
I just want to know why I poop. I'm not changing what I do. I don't want to wear a heart rate monitor. I don't want to do anything. I just want to stop pooping. And I'm like, Well, you could staple your ass shut. How about that?
I was just going to say that. That's literally the answer that you're asking for in that case. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because it's really hard. You just like, no, you're not answering my question. I'm like, no, you just don't want to hear. So I'm never going to be able to get everyone on that plane of thinking. Yeah. But this is why when people start talking about the trots, I walk away, or I sort of like duck out of the conversation. It's not because I don't want to talk about poop. It's because, once again, it's, hey, MK, you're a run coach. And I'm like, wow, but you...
Yeah.
Another conversation where it's going to be socially awkward and you're going to get mad at me. And I know I can't win this interaction because I'm playing the chess in my head. I've been here before, y'all. I got a little PTSD. So excuse me while I walk away and just say, oh, I don't know. Poops are really hard.
Exactly. And then they're like, well, here's what I do.
Yeah, here's what I do. Here's what I do.
Yeah.
Nothing good follows that, by the way. And you'll learn this over time.
Yeah.
Because right now you started in a safe and beautiful place. All the first movers into this program are people that know me and have trained with me before. Yeah. We are not yet to the point where I'm actively seeking to open the floodgates and recruit people who have no prior knowledge of me or us or this. So you haven't seen the hard stuff yet. And the hard stuff is the new person who comes in and is like, wow, my heart rate was 179. I think I just have a higher heart rate than people. I'm like, no, no. Mm-hmm. You haven't gotten to have the really fun stuff yet, where the cognitive dissonance and the disbelief is still happening, because then they hear what you say, or the number of times that, and I don't get tired of it. You got to remember, I do not get tired of saying the same thing over and over and over again. That's part of teaching. That's part of learning. That's part of reinforcing. It's knowing that if I give you all the details right now, you will get one of them. So I'm just going to give you one, and then tomorrow I'll repeat and then give you a new detail. And it's going to build a picture of dots in your brain that eventually will all synthesize. And you are trained as an instructor, so you get that on a level that better.
A language instructor, no less. And that is exactly how you teach someone a foreign language. That's what you have to do. And Harvard students, this will surprise no one. Harvard students are like, they're like, well, why? Why are we doing this? What's the point? Where are we trying to get to? I want the whole explanation. Why is this in the sentence? Why is that in the sentence? And it's always a very fine line. This is something that we would all, like, instructors would always kind of like bitch about a little bit afterwards. Like, oh my God, they want to know about why the subjunctive is like this. And we're just not there yet. And if I tell them, they're going to freak out. It's like, yeah, you have to selectively give them, like, okay, I honor the fact that you want to know this. You're very, very smart. But if I tell you that, your brain's going to explode, and I don't want that. I want you with me here. I want you with me on this point. We're going to do this point, and then tomorrow. And
you've got two options at that point, because it's either you tell them something that's going to make their head explode, or in that moment, you're going to give them a piece of information that is not new. And they're going to get really, really mad. Why? I knew that. You've said that before.
Right.
And I'm like, but okay, so how? But I can't say, well, how do you not see its lateral applicability in this particular instance?
Right.
And you calling me stupid? Like, no, I would never call. I've never used that word to describe anyone. I don't think that way. That's your ego. How about everybody just go read Ego is the Enemy? And then we'll talk, because really it's when coaches talk about people, and I'm going to end on this. When we talk about people, we do not talk about them in terms of whether we like them or we don't, in terms of whether they are smart or stupid. The only metric that matters to any of us, and if you check this box, then we do like you. Even if we don't fawn over you, we like you, that you're there. It's that, is this person coachable or uncoachable? And that's it.
And the article, the first
anyone
article,
who's ever come to me and said, I am so coachable, I am so super coachable, they end up being the worst. They're like, no, I get it. I really want to do this thing. You just haven't convinced me it's what I need to do. So let's talk about this, and this here. And did you read this book? Because I Googled it, and this is on page 7. Did you get that far in your Google searches? Because I go far in my Google searches, and I'm like, oh, geez, toast.
Sounds
like Harvard.
Oh my God. Seriously. Yeah. I used to have office hours too. That was fun. I really loved them because so often the conversations
I
were
loved them.
really wonderful. They were really, really wonderful. But
It's just
lot
the
of the
ones
time,
that don't go well, they don't leave you. They leave a scar on me somewhere where I'm like, either I need to, it just made me aware over time of how the presentation needed to change, not what we communicated, but how we presented. Like we just needed to tear it up and have a brand new structure that would lead to better results, because I want people to have what they want. And I feel like in this new environment, it's so much more likely to make all of that happen. But the downside is like, this is what I do. Well, how about you just follow what I follow? Give it a try. If you don't like it, it's an automatically renewing subscription. You can opt out and go, and that's totally okay. Like we want to make it easy to go and easy to return as much as possible. I don't want anyone to feel punished for leaving or punished for returning. We get it. Like you just wanted to do something different for a while. Cool. We're the prodigal son. Man, we just happy you're back. We don't care. We're not going to ask questions. So, but this is what I do. Okay. I loved office hours too. I love them and I do miss them, and I would like to bring those back at some point. I just want to be very, very careful about how I position them and how I deploy them. And maybe the answer is, instead of offering one-on-one phone calls, that's a separate Patreon. You set up a Patreon page. I set up a Patreon page. So we're not changing and adding into the subscription. We're being like here, and then we'll have, a live private webcast with the Patreon people in the room once a month.
Yeah,
what iRunFar does. So if everyone pays $20 a month, then you get to be in and ask a question in that webcast. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. This is one thing I truly had not thought through until it just started coming out of my mouth. But that's one way of doing it that wouldn't add more infrastructure into the website, overcomplicate things, add tiers and VIP, because I want to get away from that too. I want it to be a separate product, not an upsell. I hate being in a place where I get upsold. Well, you got this, but now you should really try. I just walk away from salespeople. So I don't want to put anyone in a room where I wouldn't want. And the marketers I tried to work with were like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, I really think you guys need a new paradigm. Yeah. Just saying. I'm probably missing money here. I'm sure I could squeeze people through the nose for access to me. I don't want to do that. I never want to do that. There has to be a better way. And while I kind of work out what that is going to be, because I just can't give that the kind of time I would want to and the kind of attention I would want to, if we're really going to grow this the way that I want to. I'm thinking if anyone has ideas, info@coachandlove.com. I'm always open to suggestions at this point in the process, but your life is gonna get fun and hard, Sarah, when we start bringing in brand new people that don't really understand why they have to do. Notice on our website, we don't even tell you have to get a heart rate monitor. That's how ground zero we are. There will be lots of changes coming. Everything that you see now is temporary. And it was always, so what you see now is me practicing. We're in the sandbox, working out the message, working out the wording, making sure that all the little pieces in place. 2020 is going to be the crazy stuff.
And you guys will be here for that because you are in it for the long haul. I love it. I love that everyone who's here with us right now they're so committed and they're so in it and excited. I love the environment in Maintain and in Rebuild. I love that I really feel like people are just listening and thinking and listening to their bodies and really investing the right amount of energy into their training. That's what I feel coming from people. People are thinking about, what do I need? And they're being really critical about that. And when they need help, they're asking for help. And that's one last thing I want to say before we get to a place where we have an office hours model. You guys know how to get us on Ask the Coaches, and we will give long answers. We can do that. Just because, don't feel like your question is too specific to you to ask the coach. Ask the question. No. We will answer it. Other people will listen and they'll say, and they will learn something from the answers. I know, because I always do every single time. So please, every Sunday night, we will be online doing Ask the Coach. There will be a Google form in your Facebook group, and you can submit a question, even if it is like, what should I specifically do for, my marathon? When do I need to start the calendar? Here's what we were saying this at the beginning of the podcast. Like, here's what I've been doing. What do I need to do now? We'll answer that question. You don't need office hours to get an answer to a question like that.
And you don't need Facebook in order to use office hours. I know we have at least 10 users at the moment who do not use Facebook. And I'm glad they're here because that lets me know, and they've been here, that lets me know that this program works for people who are not in Facebook. Actually, there are a lot of people. If you take a look, I think we've only got 140 maybe in the two Facebook groups together. Mm-hmm. We've got more clients than that. So there are people that are just not opting into the Facebook stuff, and they email me their questions. They email info@coachdandlove.com. So, and they've been for 2 months. Yeah. So do that. So I just don't really want another Google account right now. I've already got so many tabs. Another Gmail account. So Coach and Love email will be coming eventually. Just like that is so far down the list of my priorities at the moment. But if you do not use Facebook, but you are listening to this podcast or you do watch one of the live casts, you are not left out. The best way to get us, because I don't want to make that Google form public because I won't have any control over who goes in. So access to the link needs to stay in the private group as far as I'm concerned. If you are not in the Facebook group and don't share that link outside of Facebook, y'all. But once I get the wind of that happening, we're going to have to find a different way to do this. And it's going to be more maddening for the end user. So don't ruin it, y'all. But when it comes right now, everything seems to be pretty manageable. If you are not in the private Facebook groups and you do have a question, email info@coachandlove.com. Most people who have emailed me with questions in midweek anyway, and people have been really awesome about it. I get to the end and they're like, I see why you don't want us to send you email. I didn't mean for this to be 7 pages long. And I'm like, I reply with one sentence. I will answer in a live stream on the Facebook page. I will answer on Sunday night, Ask the Coach. And everyone so far, that has been great about that. And I really appreciate that flexibility from you guys.
Okay.
Because God knows I don't have time. If I barely have time, a marathon training plan, I could write one in my sleep. But trying to get that ready for public consumption, the written word's hard, y'all. I could talk all day long. Trying to make sure that my what is written, you can still hear my voice in your head reading it. And a lot of people can't, and a lot of people won't as we grow. That's an art form. That takes time.
Very hard.
And the last thing, I would rather have people be mad that I won't do it their way than offended or worse, hurt when they read something and can't hear my voice and it hurts their feelings.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that was wild and winding and had nothing to do, I think, with bullet points.
I beg to differ. We hit all of the bullet points, not in the order we put them out, but we did perfect. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I don't think we need a moderator, but I do think it's a good idea that we hire Denny to interview us when we do the introductory podcast where we sort of like, this is who we are, the one that's going to live on the webpage. Right. And that'll be coming. I really think we need to have something a little more direct and targeted there. But for week to week, I'm happy to just talk about things that are happening. I'm happy to talk about what's going on in our lives. I'm happy to talk about parenting because the intersection here for everyone who enters a race and could show up on race day with a hangover without losing their ability to pay their mortgage or their health insurance. Who doesn't need to win in order to keep those two things. Man, we just got you can have goals, you can have dreams, you can work hard without living under that type of pressure. That type of pressure does not produce the results. It's all the work and the time and the flexibility to execute that work. That is what leads to the results. It's not the pressure. So yeah, with that, this podcast is going to be, I hate the term back of the pack because it's like, how many are really at the front of the New York City Marathon anyway? Like 55,000, 900 people are the back of the pack. And that's ridiculous. I really want to get rid of that term. So for the rest of us, this is for everyone who does not have to worry about keeping the basics in their life, their keys to survival, every time they show up for a race. Because when you read like Steph Bruce, she's so open and raw and honest about the finances of it, how she got
paper at the 2016 Boulder came in fourth. What a big money loss that was for her that year. But she was like, this was income that I lost. People, it's common to get sick of the taper, but this was a really big deal. So my heart broke when I saw her get fourth place again, because now in the wake of that, we knew how much she had riding on it and how hard it is, like the big difference between on podium and off podium for a professional athlete. So I feel I like talking about these things. I will always be fascinated with the work. I will always be fascinated with the reward. And it'll never not hurt me, the pain and suffering that's packed into a question that's ostensibly about running, posed by someone who doesn't live under that type of literal threat and pressure from sponsors and the audience alike. If you don't have Steph Bruce level, quote unquote, problems, or incentives, then you shouldn't live under that type of pressure. So we're here to relieve the pressure, and the pressure goes away when you maintain all year long, rebuild appropriately, and do not stop. But this podcast does need to stop. You're coached. You are loved. We will see you in a couple of hours when we do Q&A.
Can't wait. Bye, everybody.
Bye.